So today's challenge is to look at a camera app. Instead of just taking pictures with your typical app, which is great, but it's almost purely auto. Today we're going to look at a basic camera app so that we can get into those minute controls. The manual is what we are going to call it, the manual controls. So I have downloaded just a basic app called DSLR Camera. It only costs $1 on the App Store in iOS. By the way, if you're an Android user, look for one called Open Camera. It's free, and it's going to give you some basic controls as well. So what this is going to do is just give us some more control than we typically have with our wonderful but kind of dumbed down, less controllable native cameras, at least on the iPhone. I've never used an Android, so I just have to assume it's very similar. Tell me if I'm wrong. So auto versus manual, what's the difference? Well, typically you're shooting in auto. It just makes it simple. These phones, they make great pictures, but occasionally you can't get what you want. So it's helpful to know how to go into manual mode, and it's helpful to know how a camera works, especially if you're challenging yourself to become a better photographer. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to look at the difference between auto and manual. The first thing we'll look at is manual focus. Now, so typically with a camera, let's say you want to focus on the cup, you can click on it and it's going to set everything in auto. It's not going to just do the manual, it's going to do the exposure too, meaning it's going to make it just the right level of brightness. Now if I want to get focused in the back here instead, you notice a couple of things happened. Everything got darker because that plant is a little bit closer to the window. It's a little bit brighter than the cup, especially this side of the cup. So more than one auto thing is happening here. And you notice we're in auto mode right above the big white button, the word auto. And we're in autofocus. Over here I'm going to click AF on the bottom left of this camera. It went to MF, and it briefly told you it's going between the two as I click those. Now when I go into manual focus, what I can do is I can slide, and notice the cup is going out of focus and the flower's coming in focus. And as I slide back, I can pick which one gets to be in focus. Now in auto mode on a typical camera, it might let you do that for like half a second, but it's not gonna hold that because it's constantly thinking, oh, I gotta fix it. Well, it doesn't know exactly what you want. So this is how you can get what you want. That's just the basics of manual focus versus autofocus. So exposure, we talked a little bit about that. Now, what I'm going to do is go into the manual mode right here above the white button. I'm going to go into manual mode. I didn't clean my cup. Isn't that terrible? I didn't even bother to give y'all a clean cup. So sorry. I love my coffee. I digress. I went into manual mode. That means I have two more settings here. I have shutter speed, which is how quickly, if it were mechanical, which it's not, if it were mechanical, there would be an actual shutter dropping to let in the light. Well, this simulates that through electronics. And as you see, as I make the shutter speed faster, in other words, the fraction of the second, it gets darker. Now that's good for fast motion. Let's say you're taking a picture of a kid hitting a baseball with a baseball bat, and you want to get that ball hitting the bat. Well, you're going to need a very fast focus to do that. When you're taking pictures of cups with dogs on them and flowers, it's not really that important. But I'm just going to kind of leave it here at about where it is. And then I'm going to boost the ISO setting. What is ISO? It stands for something that I've forgotten. International Standards Organization, maybe? That's probably wrong. But it stands for something like that. But what it is, I like to think of it as kind of like a volume control on a radio, on a stereo. And let's say you've got a very weak radio signal and you want to turn it up. Well, as more you turn it up, the louder it's going to get, and maybe the better you can hear the signal, but you're also amplifying the noise. So you've got to be careful with your ISO, because you can make it a little bit too noisy. Now, maybe that's what you want. Maybe you want it noisy. I went so noisy that I can bring down the shutter speed, and look, everything just gets blown out. Well, what do we have here, folks? We have lots of control. Let's say we wanted to get artistic. I don't know. Let's say we wanted to maybe do something like, whoop, just missed it. How can I get that? Bring that down a little bit if I just want to get those petals to pop. It's kind of hard to do this, but you know, I could take that picture. It's not my typical picture, but it's different. I could not have done that in auto mode. See, that's what I'm saying here, folks. You have a lot more control. Auto mode is just going to immediately, boom, put it right back. Autofocus, boom. Beautiful, but kind of boring. So I'm going to leave it at that. That's enough to think about. Now, I'm challenging you to do this because if you want to learn about photography, if you want to learn about how these things work, it's a simple process. Go to the App Store, buy a photo program that you like, and start playing around with it. You can't break anything. This one only costs $1. So learn these controls and take more control over your camera, take more control over your creative practice, and you can learn more about this kind of stuff at davidbourne.com. I am David Bourne. Thanks for watching. Cheers.